All right, so today we have notes 2.11, point slope to slope intercept with tables and graphs. So just remember real quick, when something's in slope intercept form, it looks kind of like this, right? Y equals 2x plus 4. There is no parentheses around the x, and we can find the y-intercept right away. So really the whole goal of today is for us to figure out y-intercepts using tables and graphs. So first thing first, to find the slope intercept from the point slope with tables, we need to go to the point in our table where our x is 0. So looking at this first example here, we have a slope of 3, and then we have this point 2, 8, and remember the first number is your x, the second number is your y. So we're going to have y equals -3 parentheses x, and remember x's are liars in equations, so we minus 2, and then we have a plus 8. Y's stay the same. So again, we only flip the x, we only say x's are liars when we're talking about equations. So whether we are taking an equation into like a table, that's when we'll have to flip the x. But if we are taking a point and putting it in a table, there's no need to flip. X's are only liars when we talk about equations. So we can start with a +2 and a +8. We don't flip the x. Our slope tells us to subtract 3 down our y side, so we'll have 5 and then 2. And since it's not a fraction and there's no number underneath the -3 for our slope, we can just add 1 down our table. So we got 3 and 4. Now looking at this table, it is not getting any closer to 0, so that means on the other side here, we need to go backwards. And we need to go backwards from our first point 2, 8. So we need to start that at the bottom. And going backwards, above the 2 we'll have a 1, and then above that we'll have a 0. Going backwards for the 8, so if we subtracted 3 going down, that means we add 3 going up. So we have 11, and then we have 14. And this 14 here is our y-intercept. Okay? So now we can write our slope intercept. So we have y equals, the slope is still a -3, but now we're at time x, because we have time 0 here. And then we write plus 14 for our y-intercept. So notice the slope doesn't change. There's no parentheses around the x, and then we write the y-intercept. So that was everything that we were doing like last week. So now I'm going to go a little bit faster. So here we have y equals, our slope is 5 times x, and then we have a -3, so we do the opposite. We write plus 3, close the parentheses, and then we have -2. Plug these into our table, they stay the same. We have a 5 for our slope, so we add by 5, which gives us 3 and 8. There's no number underneath the 5, so we add by 1s on our x side, so we got -2, -1. And this is getting closer to 0, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep going. So I'm going to rewrite that -8 and 1 that we ended with here. I'm going to rewrite it here. And so underneath that we have 0, and we can actually stop there because this is the one we're looking for. We're looking for when x is times 0. Add 5 to 8 again, and we get 13. So here is our y-intercept. So our equation is y equals 5x plus 13. Again, that slope stays the same when you wrote the slope-intercept form. Looking at 3 here, we have y equals for the point slope, and then we write 2/3 times x. Our x value is a +6, but in equations they're liars, so it's a -6. The y is -4, it stays -4 outside of the parentheses. So in our table here, our point is going to a table, so it's not lying to anybody. Points in table, they only lie in equations. Now we got to be careful. This 2 is +2 for our y's. So we add by 2 down our y's, and this bottom number 3 means plus 3 for x's. Okay, remember the top number is y, bottom number is x. So we get negative 2 and 0, and then we have 3, 9, 12. Well, this is getting bigger on my x's side, so I want to go backwards. So I'm going to rewrite 6, negative 4 from the top here. I'm going to rewrite that at the bottom of my other table so I can go backwards. And above that, we'll have 3 and 0. Because we added by 3, if we go backwards, we need to subtract by 3. And then above the negative 4, we'll have negative 6 and negative 8. Reason being, if we added by 2 going down the table, we subtract by 2 to go up. So we rewrite this. We get y equals, we have 2/3 x, and our slope intercept is negative 8. Okay. So why don't you try number 4 on your own using this little hint I have in green. This is basically rewriting our slope how we say it. So we say negative 5/2. So write it as negative 5 over 2. Give it a go, see how you do. Alright, so hopefully this is what you got. I'm going to explain the table part here. So my x's, we added by 2 down our table, which gets our x's to be bigger. And then for our y's, we were subtracting by 5. So this means that we need to go backwards on our table because we ended with this 10 here, and we're trying to get to 0. So we bring this 6, negative 4 to the bottom over here. And then we go backwards. So if we added by 2 going down, then when we go backwards, we want to subtract by 2. So we get 4 to 0. And then if we subtracted by 5 as we go down our table, when we go backwards, we need to add by 5, which gives us a y-intercept of 11. So when I rewrite it, I should have negative 5x plus 11. Okay, next up, this is a little faster. So to find slope intercept from point slope with graphs, we need to move our graphs till we find the y-intercepts, which is on the y-axis. So a couple of these I made a boo-boo. So looking at number 5 here, this should say negative 3. That was a boo-boo on my part. And when we write the equation, we have y equals our slope, negative 4, times x, and our x value is a negative 3, but it's a liar inside of equations, so we need to write plus 3. And then our 10 is a y, so we can write plus 10. Now in our graph, we need to find our y-intercept. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to plot negative 3, comma 10. So from my origin, that means I go to negative 3 on the x-axis, then jump up to 10 on the y-axis. So that my point is right here. Then we set our slope is negative 4. But we need to write this as a fraction. So we put it over 1, remember? And then we label the movements. If it's negative, that means we go down 4, and this one is positive, so we go right. So from my purple dot, we go down 4, right 1. Well, that doesn't leave us on the y-axis, so we haven't found our y-intercept yet. So we do the movement again. Still not on the y-axis, so we'll do that movement again. And when we do here, now we're on negative 2, and that's on the y-axis. So this is our y-intercept. And our y-intercept that we said that was a negative 2 here. So now we can write the equation, y equals negative 4x. Remember, slope doesn't change. We have just an x because now it's at time 0. And we can write minus 2 because we have the y-intercept. There's no boo-boo on number 6, so we can go ahead and start solving. So we got y equals our slope of 2. Our x value is a negative 6, so we have x plus 6 because x's lie to equations. And then our y is a negative 8. All right, so now we're going to have to once again graph our point here. And our point is negative 6, negative 8. So from our origin, that means we go to negative 6, drop down to negative 8, and draw a dot. And our slope was 2, but we got to make it a fraction, so we put a 2 over 1. They are both positive. Up top, we could do up 2. For the bottom, we do right 1. So we'll do that movement from our purple dot, and we're going to have to keep going until we land on the y-axis. And I can do this pretty fast, but all I did was go up 2, right 1 until I hit my y-axis. And when I do, I see that my y-intercept is the number 4. So my y-intercept is the number 4. So now I can write my equation. Y equals 2x plus 4. Okay. Looking at 7, there's no boo-boo here, so we can start our problem right away. We got y equals, our slope is 1/2 this time, times x, and our x value is -4, but x's lie to our equation, so we need to write x plus 4. Y is positive 5, and it stays a positive 5 in the point slope form equation. Now we're going to have to graph our point here. So we have -4, 5, and when we plot that, it's right here. Our slope, once again, was 1/2. It's already a fraction, so we can label the movements. And this tells us to go up 1, right 2. And when we do that, when we land on the y-axis, we get a y-intercept of 7. So this means we can now write our slope-intercept form equation. We know the slope. That needs just an x attached to it. And then the y-intercept, which is a positive 7, so we write plus 7. Last problem here is number 8. A boo-boo is we need to have this to be a -10. And this is my x, this is my y. So we have y equals our slope, -4 over 5, times x, and -10 lies in the equation, so we write plus 10. And then plus 7 for the y, because y's don't lie. We're going to plot our point here, -10, 7, and when we do, we plot our point here. Remember, our slope was -4, 5, so that means we go down for right 5. And when we do that, we plot here, and that's not the y-intercept, so we got to do that again. But now we have found our y-intercept. Oh, let's not do purple. Let's do this salmon color. So this is our y-intercept, and that is a -1. So our y-intercept is -1. So when we write our slope-intercept form equation, we have -4 over 5x, just an x, and then -1 for our y-intercept. And that's our notes for today. In your homework, problem number 4, the point needs to read -6, 7. I forgot to write the negative in front of the 6, so make sure you do too, or else you won't be able to figure out your y-intercept. All right, everyone, have a good day, and I'll see you next time.